Hey guys, I'm Kelsey Capps, reader in residence at the Wild Detectives, and this is Wild Books. Pew, woo, woo. Ooh, dee, bing, ding, 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 ding. So before we get started talking about books, we have a massive event happening this month on the weekend of September 7th and 8th. So we've got Saturday and Sunday blocked off. It's full of panelists who are involved with the High Forum in Dallas. We hosted it last year. You may remember we were packed out. It was awesome. We're going to do it again this year, and we've got tons of panelists. And we're even going to have a little dance party, salsa party. In my brain, I was like, salsa, so is it food or is it, I was like, are we having a tasting? We're having so many amazing panelists that I cannot remember all of them because I have the memory of a goldfish. So I am literally going to read you a piece of paper so that way you know exactly what the topics are and who's speaking, because all of the speakers are phenomenal authors, activists, journalists, and they all deserve their own moment of glory. So, can't get the paper off the counter. Anyway, I can't show it to you because I have to read it with my own eyes. All right, so our first panel on September 7th is Documentaries and Activism. We're gonna have Steve Pavey here. He's also gonna have an exhibition in the shop so you can see his actual work. And then we have Kael Alford, who's a local photojournalist. Awesome. Second one is Migration, Borders, and Violence. We're going to have three panelists. Oscar Martinez, who is a journalist from El Salvador. Dianne Solis, who is a local journalist from the Dallas Morning News. And then John Gibler, who is actually an American journalist who reports from Mexico on violence there. Third panel, which I honestly am very excited about because we featured Miriam Toews' books as one of our books of the month. So if y'all are cool, you'll come. It's called War on Women. We have Miriam Toews, Leni Zumas, and Cristina Rivera Garza. And then after all of that magnificent brain food and all those things, we're gonna have a salsa party in the backyard. So come stay, dance, do your thing. Second day, our first panel is Bending the Boundaries of Poetry and Narrative. We're going to have Felipe Fabre, Poetry and Narrative. With Felipe Fabre. He's a Mexican poet and essayist. And then we're going to have Cristina Rivera Garza moderating that panel. Our second panel for the day is going to be Language, Activism, and Indigenous Communities. Yásnaya Elena Aguilar is going to be leading it. She's a Mexican linguist, writer, and human rights activist, so that should be fascinating. And then our last one of the day is Journalism and Politics, and we're gonna have John Lee Anderson and Ben Fountain, who is also a local and who has also had a book featured on these videos. So it's gonna be a phenomenal time. I'll be here, come hang out with us. I'd love to see you, meet you, talk about books. Okay.
Your morning drinkers.
No, I don't. I'm gonna start all of that over again because I had like two things that I wanted to say about this year's stack. Can you see them? Speaking of books, I'm excited about this month's lineup because they're all women, they're all nonfiction. So, book of the month is Trick Mirror by Jia Tolentino. She used to write for The New Yorker, and this is like a fabulous set of essays where she covers everything from social media to optimization to drugs and religion. And it's beautifully written. I haven't encountered a set of essays in a long time that I was like, I am both captivated, entertained, and enlightened all at the same time. It's an excellent set of contemporary criticism about where our culture is heading and why it is doing that, and generally just takes on some pretty dark or complex subjects with a lot of lightness and insight that is absolutely phenomenal. Second book of this month is one of my favorite of all time, literally like top 5, top 3, Madness, Rack, and Honey. All right, so the author is actually a poet. She's also a professor, and this is a collection of her lectures from universities. So they forced her to start teaching classes at some point in time, and she was so nervous that she started writing them all down. And because she's a poet, of course, they're all beautifully written. And they cover everything from Emily Dickinson to the moon in literature, to loneliness. I mean, it's beautiful. I've read it multiple times. I've literally brought it to the Wild Detectives and read it out loud to a group of people. It's emotionally impactful while being illuminating, but more than anything, because it's written from a poet's perspective, while she's talking about topics that are subject matter related for her students, The content of it, the style of it is just profound, emotionally moving. I recommend it to literally everyone who has any interest in poetry, in literary criticism, and just really phenomenal writing. Last book is an autobiography by Beryl Markham. Beryl Markham lived in like the 1950s, 1940s is when she was writing. Ernest Hemingway promoted the book. So like literally on the front cover it says it's a bloody wonderful book and she made me ashamed of myself as a writer. So let's start there. Beryl Markham lived in Africa. She was an aviator, an adventurer, and she pretty much spent her entire life on that continent. So it's this really interesting adventure tale about her life there, her life as a pilot, helping, unfortunately, hunters in Africa at the time. But essentially, it's this really interesting examination of literally a type of person who doesn't really exist anymore. She was an explorer, an adventurer, an outdoors woman. And it's just a fascinating read to get a perspective on a woman who lived in a time where women really weren't all that liberated, and she was having the time of her life, going on adventures and showing Ernest Hemingway up. It's a fascinating portrait of an accomplished woman who is an excellent writer, pilot, and adventurer. Check it out. Do you want to drink the rest of that? All right. That's it for today, but remember, we want to see you guys out at the High Festival September 7th and 8th. We always have stuff going on, so make sure you keep up with us. We'd love to see you out. Have a good one. Ooh, eat. You're a star.